Well, good afternoon to everyone. What I'm going to do for the next 1 hour, I think my talk is for 1 hour, it's about 2:30 now. First, I will take you to the Western Ghats, where I have worked for almost 2.5 or 3 decades now, and how we have made inroads into the policy making. So there are some youngsters who may be interested in taking this idea forward. Then I will come to the Bangalore, the city which is dying, and tell you how the wetlands can support the city. When we talk about the climate change, the day when we shun our irresponsible behavior, I think we will be mitigating the changes in climate. So, why do we need wetlands? See, why do we have to adapt or mitigate the changes in climate? For that you need to maintain the ecosystem integrity, and that once you maintain the ecosystem integrity, you will have the ecological security. With that, what are the benefits? You will have the water security. The water is becoming a critical factor throughout the country. With the droughts happening in Karnataka, 175 or 180 taluks under drought is really an issue. And once there is a water scarcity, you will have food problem. So then the health related issues, all those things will happen. And once, if you maintain the ecosystem integrity, you will have the resource available to everyone. And ecosystem services sustain the livelihood of all the people who are all dependent biota. Happiness among everyone is the criteria. That's where you need to manage the ecosystem. And to manage the ecosystem, one has to be environmentally literate. That is the thing. People are educated, but they are not environmentally literate. That is where we see there are gaps in the decision making. When we talk about sustainability, if you can ensure the clean air and water to the next generation, you have maintained the sustainability. That, as I said earlier, for sustainable future, you need to maintain the ecosystem integrity. To maintain the ecosystem integrity, one has to take the decision appropriately. The responsible decision making is required. For that to be more effective, one should have decentralized governance for the prudent management of the natural resources. So now, when you look at the wetlands of Bangalore, we have looked at what is the number of wetlands in Bangalore, what are the services provided by the wetlands, and what is the environmental cost in the developmental planning. We have looked at the natural capital accounting also. That is the latest thing. You might have seen some of the publication of ours as a part of the strategy paper of KSTA, which is available at KSTA. Those who are interested can take that copies from them. Okay. Then we need to manage this ecosystem involving all the stakeholders. Okay. Now, since many youngsters are here, the youngsters sitting in the last row, and the ecosystem. In a simple way. See, when you look at the ecosystem, you can also understand the laws of thermodynamics. When you see the producer producing food, which is eaten by herbivores, which is eaten by the carnivores, you look at the energy and material transfer happens. That is what the laws of thermodynamics. And whatever is when you look at that, when transfer happens, there is a loss of energy also. We call it as a law of entropy. That means, looking at a simple food chain, our students of engineering and science can learn the principles of thermodynamics. And finally, whatever is left in the system gets converted into elemental form by bacteria and fungi. That's where, when you look at nature, there is nothing called waste. Where do you see waste? You will see waste where waste people are more in number. You can brand the ward or the city based on the quantum of the waste that is accumulated in the city. How many waste fellows are there? Let us now look at what we inherited. One is we inherited Earth, which is the diversity of plants and animals. And if you look at our scriptures, talks about 8 to 12 million species on the earth. And of course, in science, we talk about 1.3 million species. And out of 1.3 million species, probably we know the phytochemical properties are the medicinal use of about 8 to 10. That means we need many more youngsters to take up science to understand these aspects so that they can contribute to the wellness of the system. Now, let us look at where this diversity of life occurs. Latitudinally, as you see, I work in Western Ghats. Latitudinally, it is 8-degree latitude to 22-degree latitude. When you look at the number of species of plants and animals along the latitudinal gradient, you will see that the highest number of species of plants and animals occurs at 8 to 14-degree latitude. 8 to 14-degree latitude corresponds to Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu part of Western Ghats. That means all of us inherit this resource. It's our responsibility to manage that. So that is where science can contribute towards that. Okay. So now, how the science can help? We have big data today. We launched the satellites way back in 70s. Every 21 or 30 days interval, you get the picture of the Earth. When you have the picture of the Earth at a regular interval, you can see what changes are happening in the system. This big data, earlier to analyze the changes that is happening in an ecosystem or in a district, it used to take 6 to 8 months, one district. But because of the developments in the form of artificial intelligence and machine learning, my students could complete entire Western Ghats, the temporal analysis in 6 months. That is the advantage. That's how, the AI and ML helps you in the analyzing the pattern, the spatial patterns across the temporal or a time. Now, when you look at the changes that is happening from 1985 to 2018, you will see the green is decreasing. That means we are losing the forest. Green is not only decreasing, it is also getting fragmented. Fragmentation is the serious issue. We lose the diversity of plants and animals with the fragmentation. It leads to inbreeding and extinction of the species, etc. So, now we also looked at what is the amount of carbon that is stored in the trees. The plants during photosynthesis, they sequester the carbon and store it in the plant and gives us the oxygen. That is what we all breathe. Now that carbon, what is sequestered in the plant, if you can quantify, that is one of the services the ecosystem provides. That's where all the plants sequester the carbon. Above ground biomass, below ground biomass and in the soil. We quantified that above ground biomass, below ground biomass as well as in the soil carbon. We computed total carbon in the system which amounts to about 1.23 million gigagram of carbon in the vegetation and soil. Now, if you look at every year how much carbon gets sequestered, it's about 37,000 gigagram, which is equivalent to the carbon that is emitted in the major cities in southern India, like the Trivandrum, Cochin, Bangalore, Mangalore, etc. That means there is a balance in the system. To maintain the balance, we need to maintain the ecosystem also. And if you look at it from the economic angle, it amounts to about 100 billion rupees or $1.4 billion. You might ask, what is the use of this number? See, when I go for the international meetings, we can argue that this carbon that is stored in our forest is the carbon emitted by the industrialized countries. And it is their responsibility to pay us that much amount to conserve the fragile ecosystem in our country, whether it's Himalaya or in the Western Ghats. Now, if this trend of degradation continues, what is going to happen? Let us look at it. Because we are talking about changes in climate change. We need to know how the changes in ecosystem integrity will also lead to the changes in climate. We see that there is a further degradation of forest happen because we have more and more irresponsible people. The nature is warning us. In spite of that, sometimes scientists become a government scientist. They approve all kinds of projects. For example, tunnel project in Karnataka, in our Ghats section, I have been protesting for a long time. But I heard there is a group of scientists who are pushing that agenda. That's where the message is in Uttarakhand. You know, the last 12 or 13 days, 41 people are trapped there. That is a warning to us. That's where ecologically fragile region, we need to protect it. And for this protection to happen, I think all sections of the society who are the stakeholders of the conservation should have the spinal cord. You know, missing spinal cord in the bureaucracy, missing spinal cord among the scientists is the root cause of degradation in the ecosystem. So this may sound slightly harsh, but I've been airing this view. So that is where when I address the youngsters, please make sure that your spinal cords are intact. You need to rise and you need to question the system. Now if you don't question, then whatever the damage we have done will continue to do in your generation. That means your next generation will not have water on the earth. So now further degradation will happen. The consequence of that is there will be increase in temperature. Overall 0.5 degrees increase in temperature. Kerala become warmer while the other part become slightly cooler. You know, when Kerala become warmer, already the region is troubled with the vector-borne diseases. That will increase further. You know, chikungunya, then dengue, etc. And COVID also, you see the Kerala paid heavily. So that is going to happen. Then the other thing is the rainfall pattern. Kerala, which is receiving a higher quantum of rainfall for a longer duration, will start receiving a low quantum of rainfall. Then the wet cultivation they have to stop. The cash crops have to stop. It will affect the economy. Then the other worrying feature is the number of rainy days. You know, rain which is spread across 6 to 8 months. Instead of that, if it comes in a week's time, the same quantum of water in a short duration, you will have the floods. When you have flooding, and with the degradation of the landscape will not have the ability to retain the water, then you will have the landslides and mudslides. You know, in 2018 when I published the article, I had written a warning sentence there saying that the Kerala and Karnataka will pay the heavy price in the form of landslides and mudslides. As usual, when scientists write, people don't take it seriously. But when the landslides and mudslides happened in Kodagu and Wayanad, people started looking at our work. But I thought that we read the destination, people have started looking at the scientific manuscripts. But unfortunately, after that again I see the same kind of problems are continuing in the place. So that is where, if you want to minimize the system and make the system resilient to the changes in climate, you need to maintain the ecosystem integrity. Now, why is the climate change a problem? You see that how the increase in temperature will lead to the catastrophic thing, whether it's a species loss or the drought. See, just a 0.5 degree increase in this one, you see the drought instances, how it increases. Similarly, rise in sea level for 1.5 degree, it is about 48 centimeter, and you can see that this is about the 46 million people get affected because of the increase in the temperature. You know, so that with the increase in temperature to 2 degree, it increases to the 56 centimeter. That means the coastal towns will face the problem. People who are born in the west coast will have to pay the price for that. Then, these are general statistics. You know how people throughout the globe are going to pay the price. And this, to summarize what I said, we have the increase in temperature, the glacier melt, then you have the flooding happening in the region, then the extreme drought and decline in food productivity. You know, when you don't have the food, no one can survive on the earth. To summarize what I said so far, climate change threatens the public health because increase in temperature will increase the vector-borne diseases which will affect us. Then the coastline, the sea level rise, then the cities become more vulnerable, then the water availability becomes the issue and the food security would be an issue. So that means if you have to mitigate the change in climate, you can do it only through the conservation ecosystem. One is you can also reduce the emission that in the industries and in the fossil fuel burning you can bring it down, and other thing is reducing the land degradation and retarding the deforestation. You know, when the deforestation happens, whatever the carbon that is stored get released to the environment, and second thing, there is an emission of higher amount of emission. So that means the deforestation is much more serious. We need to address that on priority. And understanding that, we thought that let us provide the decision support system to the decision maker so that they can visualize which are ecologically sensitive so that they can protect the thing. These are the various variables we use. We use the weighted approach. Based on that, we prioritize which villages in Western Ghats has to be conserved on priority. Now, see, we use these variables. For example, I said weighted approach. We divided Western Ghat into 5 minutes by 5 minutes grids or 9 km by 9 km grid. Yeah, and we found out what is the forest cover in each grid and we assign the weight. Similarly, for the interior forest or intact forest, then the flora and fauna. See, because my group has worked for 2.5 or 3 decades and my center has worked for almost 3.5 decades, we have a good data of flora and fauna. And of course, we have taken the help of BSI and ZISI also. So that is where we know that where are the endemic species. Based on that endemic and endangered species, we have assigned the weights to the grids. Then we also looked at the carbon. This one, we had the traditional transit-based spot rate approach to quantify the above ground biomass, etc. Now, if you look at the fauna's endemism, you see that the Kerala and Karnataka part have the higher fauna endemism. If you look at tree endemism, it is highest in Kerala, then the Karnataka, and as you go there, you see the herbs and shrubs are dominant in the Maharashtra and Gujarat. Okay. So then, based on all these variables, we integrated, and when you overlay all this one above the other in GIS, and you get the composite score. Based on that, you make a 4 group, ESR 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are the 4, this one, red is ESR 1, green, the dark green is ESR 2, then the ESR 3 is light green, and 2 is ESR 4. Now the decision makers knows which is the area should not be disturbed and which is the area to be disturbed. The development can happen. Okay, this gives at the village level. So we develop the decision support system that is available to everyone who want to have see, they can look at this the decision support system. I'm just going online. See, this gives the decision support system which you can visualize the Western Ghats, the eco-sensitive regions at the grid level. Also, you can look at the village level. So now you know which part of Western Ghats is highly ecologically sensitive. Now, if you want to know about your village, you can choose the village. For example, if you choose Karnataka, and because many are from Karnataka here, I am choosing Karnataka. Then I will choose the district, let us say Coorg, okay. See, now Coorg, you know that which part of Coorg is ecologically highly sensitive, followed by ESR 2. ESR 1 and 2 are have to be conserved on priority. ESR 3 is the region which is available, with some conservation, you can bring the quality to ESR or ESR 1. Then if you are interested at taluk level, you can also go to the taluk level, okay. This gives the Markera. Then if you want a particular village, you can choose the village, okay. So you can choose any village what you want to see. Then if you want to know why that is ecologically sensitive region 1, then all the variables, the details comes there. And whatever the data which we have used for developing this decision support system is we have put it online. I launched this site on July 14. Within a 10 days, there was a question in the parliament. Only the media took this one and they just made the publicity. But apart from that, we didn't do any additional thing. Then, once there was a query in the parliament, of course, they asked me to respond, I responded to that. Then I saw that in 2 weeks, the committee from the ministry landed in my lab asking for the details. When I did the presentation, it helped to us to some extent because the committee was meeting the government of Karnataka officials and ministers regarding eco-sensitive villages in Karnataka. The Karnataka government was vehemently opposing Kasturirangan committee report as well as the Madhav Galgil committee report. But when the committee met me and after listening to my presentation, they realized they went and highlighted the carbon sequestration potential of the the Western Ghats. And when they highlighted that what is the worth of the Western Ghat in terms of one variable, carbon sequestration, the government of Karnataka said we will accept the Kastarangan committee report. And that's what the minister made a remark in the very next day. See, this is how the sun should get into the policy making. That's how we have been doing it, and that's how it has to be. And then after we developed, see, within you can see how many people have accessed the thing. Today, if you look at it, it's about 5,900 people have accessed our website. And then there was a demand for the people, because today's generation is mobile. They wanted Android version. Then we developed the Android version also. And, this is there. Then people wanted this thing to be in various languages. We wrote a small thing highlighting what is the features of this and all the languages. And also we put the videos of the people explaining the thing. If you want to know about Malayalam, you can click on the Malayalam version. You will come to know the features of this one. Okay. So then, see, this is an Android version. If you scan this, so you can download this app, which we have named it as Sahyadri. Sahyadri means Western Ghat. So that you can scan this QR code. Then you have this Sahyadri in your fingertip. You know that very ecologically sensitive this one and all. And yesterday Dr. Ramesh was speaking to me. Then he said that his colleague is in NGT. His classmate is in NGT. When I spoke to that gentleman, I told him that, see, NGT is talking about ecologically sensitive villages. It's asking the government of Karnataka, government of Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra to provide the list of the villages. Already the list of the villages is available online. When these Shatamurkas who are governing the state are not willing to share the information, at least you can take this thing. See, of course, in the meanwhile, I had sent to the NGT and Supreme Court about this, the endeavour, and Supreme Court acknowledged this one, saying that they will take it forward. So that means there is a hope in the system. Don't be cynic and thinking that the present governance system is only destroying the system. There is no hope in the system. If you are active, you will have the satisfaction of doing something for the system. Well, now with this, let me take you to the from Western Ghats to the wetlands of the Karnataka and Bangalore. And before that, let us try to understand how the catchment integrity helps in sustaining the water. I have been talking about it because my generation are all graduated looking at the literature from the West. The Western literature talked about the trees as the culprits of removing the water from the system. That is where the engineers who are graduated, the first thing they do is to cut the trees because they want to have more water in the reservoir. But after I published this, now the views have changed. So now I am going to demonstrate how the land cover or the land use in the catchment decides the water sustainability. Now for that, the glimpse of this one is, if you look at 91, when I was a student, the region had abundant water. But today the same region, same month, same day, there is no water. Now what is the problem? Could be because of the loss of vegetation. Here you see the degradation. So now the land cover, or how the ecosystem integrity is maintained, ecosystem process also depends on that. Ecosystem process, when we talk about hydrological cycle, nutrient cycle, biogeochemical cycle. That means all these things can happen only if you have maintain the integrity of the ecosystem. So now to understand that, I will take you to a river basin, Sharavati. It originates at Ambutirtha, traverses 128 kilometers, joins the now. When you talk to the engineers, they ask about the river, they think only this blue line is a river. They do not understand the concept of the river basin or the catchment or the Jalanayan Pradesh or the watershed. Now the integrity of the watershed decides the water availability. Now if you want to understand this, see what is the changes we did in this system. We constructed a dam way back in 1965. Constructing a dam has any impact on the ecosystem or the services of the ecosystem. If you want to know, let us look at the rainfall. Now the rainfall data is available in our country for the last 123 years. You can download the data, just make a 2 time period analysis. 1901 to 1964, 1965 to today. When you do that comparative assessment, you will be surprised to see 1901 to 1964, this entire region, that is the Linganmakki catchment area, was receiving the rainfall of 3000 to 4500 millimeter. But after 1965, if you look at, one portion received the rainfall of 3000 to 4500, while the other portion received the rainfall of 1700 to 1900. That means 50% reduction in the rainfall has happened. If you want to know why, that is, you just look at the remote sensing data, the land cover. You see, wherever forests are there, rainfall is maintained. Wherever forests are degraded, then we have lost the rainfall. You might ask, that might be rain shadow region. That's what the critics always tell me. So for them, when you look at the topography, the entire region is a rain catching region. There is no rain shadow region. The region receives the orographic precipitation, the same kind of rainfall. And it was happening from 1901 to 64 and 1965 to today. So now, why this happened? You know, when we constructed the dam, 179 villages were submerged. Those villagers were forcefully evicted from their homeland and they were dumped in the drier belt. You know, those people, the farmers were doing the wet cultivation. They were growing the cash crop like sugarcane, rice, etc. They couldn't survive in Bhadravati or a drier belt. What they did is they waited for the reservoir work to be completed. Then they came to this region. You know, they converted forest into agricultural land, and agricultural land today has become a degraded land in this region. Now that is the scenario there. One portion where degraded land is there, rainfall has declined, and the other side where forests are there, you see still the rainfall is maintained. Now to understand this linkages further, let us do the analysis, the sub-basin wide. You see there is a first order stream, two first order stream join from the second order, then cluster of stream from the tributary. Let us delineate the basin for each tributary. There are basins, sub-basins on the western side, and there are sub-basins on the eastern side. In each sub-basin, let us look at what is the forest cover and the rainfall. Now when you see on the eastern side, forest cover is 30%, rainfall is 1770. While on the western side, forest cover is 65%, rainfall is 4800. Or the forest cover is 60%, rainfall is 4400. This illustrates there is a linkage between the forest and the rainfall, where the Kadidru Matra Nadnal Neeru. That is what is the thing, we need to understand that. Now, what is, how much rain you get it, but more important is how long the water will be available in your well, in your river, that decides the fate of all biota. See, if there is no water in the forest, then the animal will come to the land. You know, that is what, if you want to minimize the human-animal conflict, you need to make sure the integrity of the forest ecosystem is maintained. So now, for that, what we did is, we monitored these select streams and river for about 36 months. You know why 36 months? We wanted to understand the seasonal variability, you know, monsoon, summer, what is the variability, and year-to-year variability. We put the sensors in the underlying layer. We selected the catchment dominated by native species forest, then another set of catchment dominated by monoculture plantation. The third is this one is a degraded catchment with the urban population, etc. Now, when we see the native species forest, because native species forests are diverse, roots are diverse. Because roots are diverse, there is a diversity of microorganisms, and abundant microorganisms were there. That is what evident from the soil microbial biota. And not only that, if you want to understand further, bulk density. You know, because of the microbial activity, soil become porous or permeable, which allows the water to percolate, and bulk density is lower. So that is when it fills, when the water infiltrates, it fills this zone, the groundwater zone, then it fills the vadose zone. Then only after filling these two layers, then only the water flows in the river or stream. Then you might ask, what is the use of this? See, you have water because of the monsoon rain of 4 months. Then after rainstorm, the water that is stored in the vadose zone moves laterally to the river or stream or a lake for the next 4 months. Then during summer, the water that is stored here comes to the river or stream for the next 4 months, which we call it as a base flow. Hydrology people talk about it, okay? So that's how 12 months water is there. Now, if you replace this the native species forest with the monoculture plantation, because of the similarity of the leaves and the degradation thing and alkaline generation, etc., you see that only a small amount of water get infiltrated. That's where wherever the streams are they dominated by monoculture plantation, we have water for 6 to 8 months. When you degrade the catchment, we have water only for 4 months. Based on our experiment, we graded the streams as A, B, C, D. A are the streams which have the water for 12 months. B are the stream which have the water for 8 months. C are the one for the 6 months. D for the 4 months. Now when you look at A type of streams occur when the catchment has the forest cover more than 60%, that too with the native species forest. Wherever the forests are converted to monoculture plantation, you have 6 to 8 months of water in the stream. See, somebody in the name of development will convert the native species forest into rubber plantation. He or she is depriving the local villagers the 4 to 6 months of water. Then when we degrade the catchment with the forest cover less than 30%, you see the water available only for 4 months. Okay. Now, if you want to see how much water get infiltrated, you see wherever forests are there, the forest, there is a 60 to 65% of the water, rainwater get infiltrated. That is the water available for the post-monsoon period. During wherever forests are not are degraded, you see there is not much infiltration, the maximum 22 or 28%. Now if you want to see whether this water sustains the livelihood of the people, we look at the water demand in agriculture, horticulture, livestock rearing, etc. and the domestic purposes. You see wherever forests are there, the water available is much higher than the water demand. And demand for water in the region where the forests are there is much higher compared to where the forests are not there. See, when people talk about development, they say that country has to develop, then we have to remove the forest. For them, we have to tell, see, wherever the forests are there, demand for water is higher and people are prosperous. Now, to understand that, you see, this is the region where 12 months water is available. The green are the 8 months, blue or the light yellow is the 6 months, and blue is the 4 months. Now, if you want to see how it reflected on the livelihood of the people, farmers in this region, you know, if they earn 1,54,000 rupees per acre per year, farmers in this region earn only 32,000 rupees per acre per year. That's mainly because since the water is available for 12 months, they can grow cash crop or multiple crop. That's why the earning is 1,54,000 rupees per acre per year. Whereas here, since the water is available only for 4 to 8 months, they have they can grow only one crop. More importantly, as many of you are a science student, you will understand that the occurrence of native species of forest is big abundant here. See, when you overlay the forest cover here, you see that overlaps with the water availability there. Wherever forests are intact, we have the water available throughout the year. Okay. And another interesting thing is the pollinators. The presence of pollinators, the diversity and abundance is high. See, we see higher number of pollinators in this region compared to this region. Because of the higher pollinators, you know, the pollination is efficient. When pollination is efficient, the yield of the crop is higher. See, our study shows if the farmers, for example, the paddy, if the yield is 12 to 16 or 18 quintal per acre, in this region, the farmers have to get a yield of 6 to 8 quintal per acre. Now, the government of India want to double the income of the farmers. My suggestion to government of India is just maintain ecosystem integrity. Nature does all the job. The government need not spend any money because they will get 12 to 18 quintal per acre as against 6 to 8 quintal per acre. This is what I have been telling the government, and of course sometimes the government consists of dumb and deaf fellows. So that is where we need to make inroads and see changes happens in the system. Now let's look at the diversity of animals. You see this all this indicates the various the taxa, you know, sloth, bear, tiger, etc. They all occur where water is there 12 months. You know, when water is not there, only two-legged animals are there. You know who the two-legged animals? Okay. Fighting for the water. Now, how the diversity gives us a medicine, if you want to understand, we describe the two species or new species of fish. You know, this we named as Sistura Sharavatiensis and Nagodiensis because it was in Sharavati stream and Nagodi stream. It has a medicinal properties. Being a scientist, I am also ambitious. I brought the fish to the lab to see whether I can culture it and have the medicinal property, but none of them have the medicinal properties at Bangalore lab. So the message is, if you want medicinal properties, you need to grow them in their habitat. For the fish to grow in their habitat, the water should be there throughout the year. For the water to be there in the stream, you need to have the terrestrial ecosystem intact. That brings the linkage between the terrestrial ecosystem to the aquatic diversity. So that is the. Now we are talking about changes in climate. If there is no water, what will happen to the humans? Let us try to understand. One thing is certain, we all have only one earth. We might have landed on moon, but still we are a long way to find water on the moon. When we face the serious consequence of the changes in climate, we will not have the water on the earth. In such a situation, how the organisms will manage? Let us try to understand. For example, the frogs. You all know the frogs as amphibians because they have two stages in the life cycle. The first stage, juvenile stage, is in the water. The next stage is on the land. Because of that, you call them as amphibians. Now, if the water is not there, what will happen to the frog? The juvenile cannot survive, the tadpole cannot survive. But we come across the species, Philatus leucorinus, bypassing the tadpole stage in a system where there is a scarcity of water. So that is very important from evolution point of view and also the mitigation or the adaptation point of view to the climate change. That means this organism has learned how to survive. When we did this study, we saw on the 14th day of fertilization of the egg, the younger ones are emerging out. Then we brought that fertilized egg to the Bangalore lab. We monitored it for we noticed on the 14th day the younger ones were coming out. So that means the animals have learned how to get adapted to the changes in climate. Whatever our supremacy in our brain, whatever our supremacy in our the technology, we will not survive. Okay? Now that's where understanding these linkages, our elders identified the patch of forest and they declared it as sacred forest because they knew that wherever forests are there, the water is there. They knew that next generation is going to be irresponsible generation. To bring awareness, they protected the forest and called it as Devaragadu or sacred forest or Kavus or rice in Goa and various names in other parts of Western Ghats. But what is happening? See, if you look at the Lord Shiva, his head always has a hair. The hair symbolizes the Mother Earth with the green trees. As long as Mother Earth is covered with a green saree of native species, she retains the water and she gives the water to all of us. Whereas when we degrade that, when we convert that saree into the synthetic saree of rubber or acacia or eucalyptus, we will have water for only 6 to 8 months. When we degrade the landscape, then we will not have water even for 4 months. Okay? Now, unfortunately, the so-called people in Bangalore, Mumbai, think that forest has no value. They are converting forest into small concrete land. Go to South Canada or this one. Yesterday's sacred forest, today's this idle land has become. Okay? Because this brain didn't understand these linkages. So that's where we should see that this kind of patch of forest which was giving the water has to be protected. In fact, those who have heard today morning All India Radio at about 7:35 or 7:30, you would have heard there was a forest officer talking about the sacred forest and the linkages with the faith. That is how we are trying to communicate to the wider section of the society. Well, if you are talking about development, what kind of development? Let us try to understand. For me, the development which does not deprive the local people the right to live, that is the true development, that is the sustainable development. Here we connected Kerala with Mumbai, but we didn't deprive the local people the right for fishing or the business. That is where one has to do the honest EIA. But you see what happened in the recent Nicobar Island, the EIA has done. Okay. Now, when I look at this lady who is in the late 50s, she tells me what is sustainability. I was surprised. This lady collects a bucket full of bivalve. One bucket full of bivalves in the market fetches her 350 rupees, which is enough for her to run her family. So she won't go back and collect the second bucket, because she knows that if she does not do the over harvesting today, she has a resource for tomorrow. But what do we do, the city dweller? We are interested in our grandchildren, great grandchildren, and to amass the wealth. That's what is happening, you know. So let us learn from the history. If we do not manage the system, how it will affect us. For example, the classic case, the East Island. People thought the land is available. They went on expanding. But people have to abandon the island finally because there was a water scarcity. Similar thing happened in the last leg of Vijayanagara kingdom. If you have read the history book, you will see that last phase of the Vijayanagara kingdom failed because of the water scarcity. That means natural resource availability decides the fate of the region. And the latest thing is the zoonotic diseases. You know, I was traveling in Western Ghats. We were studying the landslide had happened. We were asked to submit the report. I was traveling in Western Ghats. I didn't see the COVID in the villages where there were good forests. That is mainly because the people in those regions were having a diverse food. Whereas the city dwellers, the pizza fellows, they were dying like the flies. You know, in the apartments, every day I was hearing 4 days, 5 days kind of a thing. So that means if you maintain the ecosystem integrity, you get the diversity of food. When you have diverse food, you have the diverse medicine. When you have diverse medicine, you have the immunity in the system. To narrate one incident, when I was doing a study on landslides in that region, you know, a couple of villagers met me. We were 8 of us, my team was 8 of us. Around 1 o'clock we completed our study, we were about to return. One of the villagers came and said, "Sir, why don't you have food in my house?" I said, "It's already 1 o'clock, why to trouble the ladies at home? I would rather go to the hotel and have the food." He just said that, "Sir, you spend half an hour with me and then tell me whether I have given you the food or not." He took me to the home, the entire chain. We were chatting for half an hour. In half an hour, food was ready. I was surprised to see the food plate contained the 5 varieties of dishes, all of leaves. You know, the surrounding area, they have done tamli, chutney, all those things they had prepared. Such a diverse food and healthy food there. Of course, if I tell somebody in Bangalore I am coming home, or if I go and knock at the door, people from inside say that we are not at home. You know, such a situation. Whereas the villagers invite us. In fact, I have done the studies in Western Ghats, not having food in the hotel. You know, people have taken me home. Even when I was a student, that's the kind of love and affection they had showed on me. I have given back to them in the form of these decision support system and many of the publications. The message here is you maintain the ecosystem, the integrity by managing the ecosystem. You need to maintain physical integrity and chemical integrity of the ecosystem, then only you can have biological integrity. The species that occur in a particular region which are endemic to that region, you can have it only if you maintain the physical and chemical integrity. For that, you know, there are people sitting in AC room, half working brains. You know, they come with a river linking project. They think that if they connect the rivers, they have solved the problem of the country. But they are creating the mess. You know, the river, when you connect, for example, Ganga to Kaveri, the species in Ganga can become an exotic species to the Kaveri. You know, then it outcompetes our native species. That's what we have to see. If you want to understand further, you can look at the classic case of alligator fish, which is not a fish, which is a kind of a, I'm sure Ramakrishna is there, Professor Dr. Ramakrishna, he will highlight further. Okay, now with this, let me go to the wetlands of Bangalore. You know, when I look at the history book of wetlands in Bangalore, 1800, we had 1452 water bodies in Bangalore, 80% green cover. Because of that, the temperature in the region was 14 to 16 degrees Celsius. And for a few days in December, the temperature was 0 degrees Celsius. In a place closer to my institute, Palace Orchard, we were growing apples because of the prevailing temperature at that time. And today, we have 193 wetlands. Most of them are polluted and less than 4% green cover, and consequence of that temperature is 34 to 37 degrees Celsius. What is the greatest achievement of Bangaloreans? Doubling the temperature. Okay, the city with growing apple became a city of waste and waste fellows. So Now the city, which was a garden city, became a garbage city, and today it's a dead city. And when you look at the lake, it's all interconnected. You know, it is like a small hill, the city. When you look at the 3D, and this location has the highest point, 942 meter. If you come to my campus, my main gate at the campus is highest point. Not only we are number one in the country, my campus is also located at the top highest point in Bangalore. And the ecosystem approach is to maintain the connectivity among the lakes so that water moves. As the water moves, you know, the treatment happens. So, okay. Now people who do not understand why wetlands are required, we get fish, we get water, we get the fodder. Then it does the job of groundwater recharge, carbon sequestration, etc. And of course, recreation is the other service done by the ecosystem. You know why I am highlighting this is when I sit in the committees in Bangalore, some of the urban experts come. They come and tell me lakes in Bangalore not required. They think that lakes are only meant for irrigation purposes. And one of the person I told, gentlemen, lakes also does the groundwater recharge. And also I told him, other job the lake does which urbanites take advantage is the recreation service. All the half-brain fellows with a half pant will be jogging in the morning. That is where they need to understand the importance of the lake. Otherwise, they jog, they throw the garbage in the lake and they come. Unfortunate thing. Okay. Now, if you see the historically, our care market was a lake. You know, town hall areas lake. And you know, we had a protective wall and the water. See, earlier rulers looked at the water security and protection for the people. That's where they had the vision. Today's today's rulers, when they look at the lake, they think about the Lakeview apartment, Lulu Mall, all these things. You know, they encourage even the Raja Kalways to create the mass. I'm sure, because I studied that. Now, let us look at how important lakes are there. See, when the lakes were there, I was getting water at 80 to 100 feet. When people removed the lake, the water table went down to 600 feet. Today, you go to Nagshettihalli, where Antariksha Bhavan is there. Surrounding area, people met me saying that there is no water. They have gone down to 1900 feet. There is no water there. That's where we have gone up in search of water to the moon. We had a successful Chandrayaan, you know. So that is what happens. You need to invest and spend more money in search of water. That is not a good sign. And wherever the concrete areas are there, groundwater table has gone down. For example, Whitefield, Electronic City, you see serious scarcity of water. Now, if the lake is good, what is the worth of it? Because we all belong to the population. What is the use in terms of the economy? How much is the thing? You know, whenever I meet people, first thing they ask me is how much you earn. Nobody asks me how much you have written. What is the use of that? They ask how much you earn. In fact, one lady told me, shouted at me saying that you are a useless fellow, still you are studying in a university. She thinks that working in IISC is studying in a university. She thinks that I don't earn. So that's the unfortunate part. But if the lake is good, what is the worth of it? If the worth is 10,500 rupees per day per hectare. When the lake is polluted, for example, in the same catchment, you know, Amruthalli lake, the worth has come down to 20 rupees per day per hectare. Now, who are the people dependent on the lake? Fishermen, washerwomen, farmers, etc. Now, that section of the society are deprived of their right to live because people like us, we throw the pollutant into the water body. Now, let's look at the worth of the thing. You know, we did a mapping of wetlands in Karnataka. There are 39,000 wetlands in Karnataka. Then we did that ecosystem survey. That is the strategy paper we published as a part of KSTA publication. And we looked at what is the provisioning, regulating and cultural services of this wetland. And finally, we arrived at what is the worth of the wetlands in Karnataka, 7,320 billion rupees. And it gives us a resources every year, 284 billion rupees every year from the wetlands in Karnataka. That's where I've been telling the government, we need to move towards the green GDP. When we talk about GDP, we should also account the degradation cost of our so-called developmental part. So that is the thing, that is where, one is, the legal wing is very weak in our country. We do not have appropriate youngsters to argue in the court. And of course, judiciary also is not aware of some of these aspects. So that's where I expect more and more youth getting into the legal front, have the environmental understanding and take up this cause in a bigger way. Okay. Now, we looked at what is the worth of the investment per hectare also. This is the total ecosystem supply value. We looked at both the inland and coastal ecosystem. Okay. Now, what is the threat to the wetland? Biggest threat is a human being. Okay. Unplanned urbanization. We lose floodplains, loss of interconnectivity among wetlands, narrowing drains with concretization, and loss of riparian vegetation. Now, to substantiate what I said, look at how the changes are happening in Bangalore. 1973, the area of Bangalore, current area is 740 square kilometers, 68% green cover, where 2019 it is about 81% is red. Red are building, green is vegetation, blue is water body, yellow is open space. 1973, a 68% green cover, aptly Bangalore was known as a catcher's paradise or a gardener's city. 1992, industries came up in Peen and Koramangala, we see changes happening there. Then outskirts, we see the IT-BT sectors coming and changes happening here. Then further intensification happened 2006 and 2009. And today if you look at 2021, 85% is concretized, or 2022, 86%. And if this continues, by 2025, 98% would be choked with concrete. You will see only the cement. See, earlier we used to say water everywhere, but now we have to say concrete everywhere. Okay, and we have reached the situation where the oxygen deficiency is also there. There are instances of people using oxygen cylinder in the late evening, the age group of 50 plus, and some youngsters also use oxygen cylinder because of the oxygen deficiency in the region. There is a water scarcity, there is an oxygen deficiency in the system. That's where I've been telling the government we need to decongest Bangalore. Okay, now let's look at how many trees are there in Bangalore. See, all this spatial analysis you can do with the recent technologies like geoinformatics. We did a mapping in IISC campus using GPS, global positioning system. My student could identify the trees, the species, then we linked that with the remote sensing data. Then using that kind of training data, we used it for the entire Bangalore, and we quantified how many trees are there in Bangalore, which is about 1.5 million trees for the 9.5 million population. That means for every 7 or 8% there is one tree. You might ask, how many trees are required? In fact, there are a group of people, they think that trees are not required. In assembly once, somebody asked me, when I was invited to Vidhan Sabha, one of the ministers told me, we don't require trees in Bangalore, why are you fighting for trees? Then I asked him, are you breathing? The requirement of oxygen, they do not know from where it comes. This has been talked about in our scriptures. For example, in Bible talks at least 320 times the nature conservation. If you study the Quran, it talks of the imminent war if you pollute the water body. That's why if you visit the Dargah, you have to wash your feet and finger with a clean water before you enter the Dargah. If you look at our scriptures, it also brings about the linkage between the water, children and trees. If you have a well at home, you are wealthy. 10 wells are equal to 1 lake, 10 lakes are equal to 1 reservoir, 10 reservoir is equal to 1 child, and 10 children are equal to 1 tree. That's a benefit what you get from 10 the children. 10 children you can get by planting and nurturing a sapling. Now I'll put it other way. When you cut a tree, you are murdering your own 10 children. See, that is a powerful message our elders have given. But anyway, irresponsible populations still have not gone through the scripture. Now, not only that, we are emitting more. Which sector we are emitting? If you look at, of course, energy production, fossil fuel based thing contributes. Then the waste sector, about 78% of emission comes from the waste sector. And the cities, we do not have a good public transport, have higher emission from a transportation sector. For example, Hyderabad, 54% of emission come from the transportation sector, and Bangalore is about 45%. And not only that, the classic case is this building. When people look at this building, they think that architecture is good. Architecture is good, but unfortunately, this is a classic case of copy-paste. Today's engineers, Today's architect, today's civil engineer are the copy-paste cats. They go to these European countries, they look at that architecture which is designed for the temperate climate or the cold climate where you need to conserve the heat to have the appropriate thermal comfort inside the building. But unfortunately they come to Bangalore or Chennai or Hyderabad, the tropical climate, they paste this the architecture in Bangalore. And now the consequence of that, if you want to study, when I studied 3000 households, I see the normal building, people electricity consumption is about 700 to 1200 or 1400 units per person per year. Whereas in this glass facade building, it's about 14,000 to 17,000 units per person per year. 10 times higher electricity consumption because of one copy-paste culture. So for heaven's sake, don't think about copy-paste. When the assignments are given, do the assignment properly than doing a copy-paste, okay? So that means unplanned urbanization, we lost the ecosystem, we enhanced the polluted in the environment with our other architecture. Now if you travel from the airport to the headquarters, you will see all those glass facade buildings have come up. I've been telling the city administration we need to bring a restriction on the glass facade building. Only when I am in the committee they think about that, but after that they will allow that to happen. Okay, now let's look at how many wetlands we have lost. We have lost about 79% of the water bodies. In Bangalore, 88% green cover with a 1055% increase in the concrete area. Consequence is the temperature which was 21 degree in 90s became 24 degrees in 2000 or 28 degrees in the 2010, and today it's about 34 to 37 degrees Celsius. And if you want to understand the role played by this ecosystem in moderating the climate, you go from the city center, you will see wherever lakes are there, temperatures are 2 degrees lower. Whether it is the lake or the park or even my campus where good vegetation is there, temperature is 2 degrees lower. Because of that we do good science. So, okay, the consequence of mismanaging the wetland is that floods and water scarcity. See, we have flooding happening in the region and the drought situation in the other part. And the interconnectivity among the lake is lost. You can see the lake which is interconnected, we lost it because of everybody encroaches. The politician encroaches, film actor encroaches. R.R. Nagar, my friend Sarathi is there. He is sitting on a train. So these are the kinds of people who are creating the mess in the system. Okay? And if you look at when the lake is clean, it looks like this. When the lake is polluted, it is infested with the invasive species of thing. See, when the thick bed of invasive species cover the lake, it does not allow the sunlight to penetrate. In access of sunlight, the food chain, they crashes. You see that algae comes down because of the zooplankton population comes down, or the fish population comes down. That's why the productivity of the lake comes down from 10,500 rupees per hectare per day to the 20 rupees per hectare per day. The classic case of Bangalore is the frothing lakes and the fire. Frothing, we have to address the pollutant entering the lake. This indicates there is the phosphorus getting into the lake, nutrient getting into the lake. This shows that there is a carbohydrate, the greases or the oil getting into the water body. What is the solution for this? According to 21st century bureaucrats and engineers of the Bangalore, is that they put when people, international media started talking about the froth coming to the lake, they just put this barricade. I wrote an article in the media saying that this is an irresponsible action by the city administration. And city administration called me and said, sir, you are always a critic, we take your criticism. I said, your solution is for 4 days. You watch out, I said in my article. As I predicted, the 4th day, the froth crossed over and it entered the street. And again the problem continued. So that means the solution is for 4 days. But what is the cost? To build this barricade, they spend 2 crores. Their agenda is to mismanage that 2 crores. Okay? Now, how they are giving the pollutant to all of us, let us see. Solid waste is dumped to the ground and the lake receives the industrial effluent, untreated sewage. Now, every unit of pollutant entering the lake, it gets magnified to 1 million times in fish. Okay? And people in the lake, in the vicinity of the lake, use this lake water to grow the vegetables. They grow the pudina, spinach and radish and all those
seasonal, the vegetables. We just collected the samples of vegetables and fish, we analyzed, and we found that all of them had heavy metal. You know, heavy metal in a food chain. Heavy metal in the food is creating a havoc in Bangalore. There is a higher incidence of cancer and kidney failure in the city. Those who have watched TV yesterday would have seen the doctor from the Institute of Oncology was on TV. He was telling Bangalore is on the top as far as the cancer instances are there, which I had talked about 10 years back. And the other one is the kidney failure. Kidney failure, which was 1 in 1 lakh about 12 years back, today is 1 in 5,000. That's where every ward has the dialysis unit. Having dialysis unit is not a good sign. You know, it shows how the city is dying. And this okay. Then we said lake has to be rejuvenated. So that is where we carried out a study to say how to rejuvenate the lake. You know, one of the important things to decontaminate the lake, that means the silt which has the contaminant, you need to remove that from the lake. We did the quantification of that to find out what was the earlier okay, this is the current depth, and when you take a difference of that, it will tell us what is the silt that is there in the system. You know, we found that about the 6 and 3 million, about 11 million cubic meter of silt is there in these two lakes, Vattur and Belantur. You know, when I gave a report at the time, like any other report, people thought that there is one more report. But local people took it to the Supreme Court. So NGT penalized the government of Karnataka based on my report 500 crores. And they said that this lake has to be rejuvenated. The committee was constituted. I was made a member of the committee with Santosh Hegde as the chairman of the committee. And we started the journey. That is where these things started. You know, when I said 11 million cubic meter of silt is there, then I saw some people in Bangalore started criticizing me. So TVR wants the 11 million cubic meter of silt to be removed from the lake, which will create the traffic problem. So then, you know, then we did the proper, this one to tell them how to, that's where we carried out a detailed study, and that is where the army joined hands with us. You know, this is my team, the army fellows and my students, everyone, we did detailed study for a month to see the contaminants. Then the silt that was there in the lake, the Vattur lake didn't have any the contaminants, where the Belantur had the thing. When I talked to the farmers of the Vattur lake, they agreed to take the silt. You know, without any traffic problem in the immediate vicinity, 400 acres of land was fertilized with this silt. You know, after 4 months, you know, I visit the lake every month. When I visited after 4 months to this lake, the Vattur, vicinity of the Vattur lake, farmers in that vicinity, they invited me with the open hand. You know, this is the bumper crop they had got. You know, that is, every farmer said, you know, per acre, they had made the profit of 1.5 lakh. That is because they didn't invest on the fertilizer, and since the soil had nutrient N and P, they could have the bumper crop. And other thing is, now they will grow 3 crop a year, 1.5 into 3, you know, you can see 4.5 lakh into 400 the acres we have given this silt. You can see what is the worth of the silt in the system. You know, that is how sensible the decision making can happen if the scientists join hands with the decision makers. And of course, finally the farmers and the local people are also happy with the system. Now this is the treatment option, we are talking to them, and one of the success models. See, I crossed 3:30. Will you allow me for another 5 or 12 minutes, or shall I stop right now?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, okay. So anyway, the tea break is there. I am just getting to the tea break because I don't want addicts in the youngsters, okay? So now one of the example, you know, now I have talked about science. Now let us see how the science benefit the society. You know, there is a lake, Jakkur Lake is there. You know, 2005, we carried out a study in Jakkur Lake, and surrounding there were 25 wells were there. All this water, you know, well as well as the lake water had nitrate. Nitrate is a carcinogen which introduces cancer. Then I pushed the government to rejuvenate the lake at that time. Then the government constituted a committee. I was again a member of the committee. And Sidaya was the commissioner of the BDA. We had a very favorable environment, and Yellappa Reddy was the chairman of the committee. Then at that time the government said they can treat the wastewater only to the secondary level. As you all know, the wastewater treatment has three levels: primary, secondary, tertiary. Primary treatment will remove the large particle. The secondary treatment will remove the chemical ions. Tertiary treatment will remove the nutrient, N and P. See, when we discharge the sewage, it has nutrient along with the chemical ion. So, if you have the secondary treatment plant, you are removing only the chemical ion, not the nutrient. And nitrate is because of the nutrient, getting into the system which get oxidized into the nitrate. So, that means the problem of nitrate is not solved with the investment by the government. Then I suggested to the committee that let us have a constructed wetland and algal pond, which was integrated with this secondary treatment plant, which does the tertiary level treatment. That means it removes the nutrient. Then last 10 years, my students have monitored the lake and the surrounding the borewells. Today there are about 300 wells. None of the borewells have the nitrate. At least my science is giving clean water to the 300 borewell users. That is the hope. And this report, what we came out of the study, we have put it online, which shows that 85 to 90% removal of nutrient in the system. Okay. Now, the solution for the water in Bangalore. The Mekedatu and all the jokers keep talking about. See, my solution is simple. I get a rain of 700 to 850 millimeter. If catch that rain, I get 15 TMC of water. Bangalore requires 18 TMC. That means 70% of the water required for Bangalore is available in the form of rain. The best option is rainwater harvesting. Roof harvesting will give you 4 months additional water. The next best option is through the lake. Rejuvenate the lake, retain the rainwater in the lake. So the groundwater sources get recharged with the clean water. Then the second option, if you are using 18 TMC of water, you are generating 18 TMC of wastewater. Treat it similar to Jakkur lake model. You get 16 TMC of water. That means 15 TMC because of the rainwater and 16 TMC because of the wastewater treatment. You have 31 TMC, which is a surplus situation. For that, I have a 5R formula. First R is a responsible citizen. When people are responsible, they rejuvenate the lake, they retain the rainwater, and they allow the reuse and recycle of the wastewater. Okay. So then, what are the other things we have done? We have done the water body creation and the mini forest. I said the linkage between the vegetation and water I have demonstrated through this. And the most powerful weapon which I have been practicing is sensitizing the youth. My audience sometimes goes up to 1,000, 2,000 kind of a thing. So that's mainly because we interact with a lot of youngsters. Even last week I was with one of the engineering college where about 1,000 people a day. Okay, see, we created a water body in the campus. This is a perfect lab for me, for my student to do the biofuel study. Not only students are happy, I have an otter. I don't know from where it has come, but I have a otter in the campus. If otter is there in the water body, it's a voracious eater of fish. That means the fish has to be there. When we did the biodiversity study, we saw there is an adequate algae, zooplankton and fish. The message is that if you facilitate the system, the nature knows how to establish the food chain. Okay? And when people listen to me, they also implement. This is what happened in Mudbidre. This saint is a Mudbidre Jain Swamiji. There was a water scarcity in 2014 and 15. And when he met me, I suggested about the water body. He said he has 12 acres of land. We gave a proposal where the lowest water location and how much water can be stored. I said that if you create a water body, June 5th when it rains, you can collect the water. And also you take up the desilting of 32 lakes are there in the Mudbidre, can you take up the desilting? He said, 32 is too difficult for me. Then I said, at least 2 you do it, 1 or 2. And he did a 2-lake desilting. Because the saint did it, remaining 30 lakes were desilted by the local people under Shramadhan. That is the hope in our system. That is what the spiritual leaders have to do. That is I'm a firm believer. Science, society, culture and spirituality should go hand in hand in our country if you want to see the progress in our country. If you erode one of the components, you will have a problem. So that is what, when I see the success here, it is because of the youth. See, Swamiji is young and youth have taken part, and it's a student from Alva Science and technology. And CEO of Alvas is also quite young. So when I saw his youthful nature, I thought I should give one medicine to him. So then I made sure he creates a water body in his campus which stores 25 lakh liters of water. And he also take up the planting of native species. Within a year when I visit that institution as a guest faculty, the next year I see the greenery with the abundant water in the system, smile on our face. The positive thing is, when the water body was created, before creation, this man is alone, bachelor, struggling to get married. But after creating water body, he gets a partner who take care of the entire family. The message is that if you want happiness at home, do something for the mother nature. The nature will reward you with that. So if you search on the Facebook, all these faceless fellows will search on the Facebook, get married. Very next month they think about divorce. So best thing is do the nature. Okay? Now I will tell you the story about how we solve the God's problem. You know, if you come to Gokarna, there is a temple. Lord Shiva is there, in front of him his son Ganesha is standing. There is the pond, Koti Tirtha. You know, it was filled with the wheat, and the local youth wrote to me saying that there is a pollution problem, can you study? We went and studied at no cost to them. Then we realized that it is because of the organic input getting into the system. When the organic thing, you know, the rice balls, people perform the ritual, the rice balls and all those things is left in the water body, which that degrades, and that's where hydrogen sulfide is generated, smell is there. So, but that is a difficult thing to stop in our country. You can stop water, but you cannot stop this practice. So what I did is I had a meeting with the priest. You can see that my meeting with the priest, I convinced the priest, you allow them, I have no problem. They were surprised. I said, when you allow them, you chant. And when you chant, you collect 200 rupees per family. So when you collect 200 rupees, I have about 20 to 25,000 rupees revenue every month, which we give it to the NGO. The NGO has hired 3 youth. Their job is to do the DVD, and in the, you know, the excess rice ball, they take it out and give it to cattle in the Goshala. And for the last 3 years, if you look at the lake, it looks like this. You know, the lake earlier was contaminated. Lord Shiva and his son were taking bath of this water. Poor fellows. But after meeting scientists, they started taking bath in this water. Naturally, they must be happy. If you look at my profile, last 5 years, tremendous work we have done. We have succeeded in the system. That's because we have solved the God's problem. Okay, that's the thing. Okay. Now, when somebody leaves us, you know, at a very young age, one of my colleagues, Harish Bhatt, passed away, very well-known ornithology. Instead of crying for his death, what we did is we got the children to the campus. I got 500 ficus species planted. 500 ficus sapling, 5 varieties were planted in the campus. You know, children when they celebrate birthday, they come and water the sapling. Low cost mechanism to manage the system. And all of them have survived. That's how whenever I go there, when I hear the bird calling, I remember Harish Bhatt. Invariably when I take a walk, I do that, okay? Well, if you come to the campus another 2 minutes, you will see this climber. I was fascinated by the architecture. I thought I should have it in my campus, that in Bangalore. So what I did is I brought the seed to the campus, this pot, which had 14 seeds. Out of 14, 7 seeds I planted in 7 locations in the campus. Out of 7, only 1 survived. Where it survived? It is next to this building where I worked for 2 decades. Even the plants knows who will take care. Why other 6 didn't survive? Though it was planted by me in the same environment, because I was not going and talking to them every day. Okay? And in front of the campus, my building, we created a mini forest in 2 hectares area. 49 native species, 500 saplings were planted when I was a student. Today you come and look at the region, you get a feel of the rainforest. And temperature is 2 degrees lower. See, moderating microclimate, you can see that. Groundwater, which was 150 feet earlier, today I have a water at 10 feet. Now tell me, what is the solution for water crisis in Bangalore or any city or any village? Maintain the ecosystem integrity, manage the watershed. Okay? So then bring this, give this knowledge to the youth. When youth get the knowledge, they become sensible. When they are sensible, they become responsible. Today's youth are addicts of mobile. They have become slaves of technology. That's where they become irresponsible in the system. That's where there are certain social problems associated with that. That's why we are trying to remove that. I travel throughout the country bringing this awareness. Then we also conduct a course on environmental management. This is for the capacity building for the people working in industry and universities. This is the 22nd session I have conducted. That means for the last 21 years I have conducted this session. This is in addition to my regular teaching for my PhD students. Okay. So we organize a symposium popularly known as Lake Symposium once in 2 years. From 98 we have been conducting 13 events we did. Uniqueness of the event is not only the international national delegates come, the school children and college students come. They attend 3 days, they get the knowledge. And on the last day, they do the presentation. They demonstrate their ability. That builds the confidence in the youth. The children do the simple experiment like carbon sequestration or the catchment mapping or the water quality assessment. They come to the lab, analyze, and the children in rural area, they do the neighborhood mapping of biodiversity. Biodiversity Act says that there should be PBR in every panchayat, People's Biodiversity Register, documenting biodiversity. Government didn't succeed. When I did this in 2016, in 1 year I got 170 villages and 92% accurate. That is the hope in our youth. That's the hope in our school children. If you want accurate data, put youngsters into the thing. They will do wonderful job. Okay? If you need more details, you can go to this website. You can write to me at this tvr@iisc.ac.in. And this gives, the portal gives my publications. You can look at the publications, whether it's the Google Scholar or the research here. And when you access my portal, you will see that all publications are archived. Okay? And also my talks, YouTube is available in YouTube. If you want to a Kannada version, you just search YouTube, TVRAMACHANDRA, you will get all my talks. And also this gives a glimpse of the children doing the water chemistry in some rural school where there was no facility. I have created the lab facility in some of the rural school. You might ask, are you so rich? Are you Birla or Tata? No. When the awards come to me, the money I don't take it home. I give it to as an investment for the next generation. I do that. Okay. So when the work what we did for Aganashni, you are likely to have the announcement as the Ramsar site. The site, we had a unique biodiversity, it fulfills all the criteria of the thing, but for some reason people have not taken note of it. I've been talking about it with the ministry and all. Now final stage, I think on 2nd February it's going to be announced. So this is the report which we gave to the government. So that means Aganashni is going to be, Kokrebelluru was declared a Ramsar site, and this is going to be another this one. The journey of a scientist, when these kind of things happen, there will be satisfaction. There is a hope in the system. That hope, if it disseminate, carry forward to the youth will shine as the stalwart for the country. That's what I am looking forward. Thank you all for listening to me. That my hope is these youngsters. When I put the seeds of environmental knowledge, they become a sensible managers for tomorrow, or the decision makers for tomorrow. When they become that, they will make sure there is a smile on everybody's face. This is the youth which works behind me. So I'm just doing the job of the ambassador. But it is an effort of about 30 plus youngsters working with me. Thank you all.
Thank you. Nice, inspiring talk. And if you have any doubts, you can write to sir for clarification. Only one question is allowed. Okay, please. Sir, listen.
Yeah.
We are very happy to see you here because our classes used to have your papers as reference. TV Ramachandra et al., TV Ramachandra et al. Used to echo in our ears. I have a small question. how about the different forest types, how they are resilient to climate change? Just for evergreen and moist deciduous also, if you just pitching some ideas.
No, I would say that when I say that you should maintain the ecosystem integrity, don't worry about the type, because they all depend on the, for a particular region, that kind of the diversity prevails, evergreen, deciduous, this is all this one. If you have converted evergreen into monoculture plantation, that is a tragedy. Giving the evergreen forest to the MPM, Mysore Paper Mill, and they converting into that 450 hectares into the monoculture, that's a tragedy. So I would say where the deciduous is there, think of deciduous species. Where grassland is there, maintain the integrity of grassland. Don't try to convert grassland into evergreen forest because of your love for the evergreen species. So the heterogeneity has to be maintained. When you do that, the material and energy transfer happen across the system. That's what stabilizes the thing. Finally, if you look at the entire earth, you have various biomes that maintain the system balance, okay?